Alright, today I'll be reading 2 My Little Pony Creepypastas. And before I begin, I'm gonna clear up a few things before I read. Because I know I'm gonna get slammed in the comments if I ever do get comments about bronies and such. I just wanna say, no, I'm not a brony. I barely watch My Little Pony, and also, I tried to not read them. I tried to not read the why I stopped watching My Little Pony Creepypasta because, and especially for My Little Pony SNES. I know other people read it. I know it's already done. I know that people done My Little Pony Creepypastas to death at this point. But I like the 2 of them, not a brony, because they're pretty good ones. Therefore, I'm gonna read them. Hey, does everyone remember that one My Little Pony Friendship is Magic episode to where one of the ponies died and gets his neck twisted, and then for the rest of the series, his head, he hangs at a weird angle? Yeah, me neither.
I never thought anything strange could come of this day. On a rather sunny day, I filled up the trash bin next to my street with the garbage that had been filling my home. I knew the dumpster truck would be around soon to empty it, as it always has been every day. Seeing as I had nothing else to do for the morning, I decided it would be the proper time to go for a quick 5-minute jog to the next block downtown. In fact, the temperature was in the perfect spot so that I never really got too hot until the end of my jog. As I was walking back to my home as part of the cool down, I was shocked at what I found. The trash in the bin had not been picked up, but rather was strewn about all around the bin. Bark's root beer cans were littered around the bin in a circle along with other bits of debris. The black trash bag that I had placed the unwanted material into appeared to be emptied completely and was just laid on top of the bin. Wondering what could have even happened, I began to clean up the unexpected mess. However, as I was about to place one of the Bark's cans back into the bag, it seemed as if the sack wasn't completely empty. I curiously peered into it to find an old SNES cartridge. I didn't remember throwing out something like that recently. In fact, every SNES game I had ever bought before was still sitting in my basement. I figured maybe whoever littered my trash everywhere did this, so I took the game out and examined it. What was on it surprised me. I know there are a lot of stories about games that have a label torn off or just suspicious looking cartridge to begin with. However, the label actually seemed professional in the making. The only thing off about it was the premise of the game as shown on the label. The title of the game was simply My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, similar to how it was titled just by the show's name on the iOS game. The Generation 4 character models were even present on the cartridge as well. Twilight Sparkle, Pinkie Pie, Fluttershy, and all of the other main characters were present. This was especially odd since this version of the show came out in 2010, which was way after the time of anyone making SNES games for a profit. I then thought back to a particular game known as Battle Kid for the original NES. Someone had actually programmed that for an old system long after it was abandoned by most developers. In fact, the guy was even selling a physical copy of it to people for a small profit. After hearing this, I figured maybe it was some fan developer that wanted to share his or her creation with someone else. I was rather curious as to why it had to be done in such a messy manner, though. They could have just left the game on my doorstep, and I would have gladly sat down to play it. As I was beginning to walk back to my home, I noticed that the back of the cartridge didn't feel as smooth as it should have. My fingers had slid across a rough patch somewhere. I flipped this supposed game over as I noticed one piece of tape on the back in black marker, and almost seeming as if it was in Times New Roman font, it read, "I'm sharing the magic. TS." TS? Those were the same initials as those of Tara Strong, the voice actor who is Twilight Sparkle within the game that this game is based off of. I thought it was cool that whoever made this also got the approval of one awesome voice actor as well. I remember hearing a saying somewhere once before that described whatever Tara Strong touches turns to gold. Seeing as I haven't yet to see anything terribly bad come out of whatever she's a part of, I thought that saying would have some merit in determining how good this game really was to play. I think I've rambled on enough about how I managed to come across the game. I think it's time to describe what came from playing it. When I first booted it up, I was surprised to see the 16-bit sprites within the game actually closely resembling what the 6 main ponies in the show looked like. They were sitting in front of what appeared to be Fluttershy's home in the show. They seemed to be relaxing with a nice little picnic. Twilight was reading a book as usual. Fluttershy seemed to be resting along with her pet bunny Angel resting next to her. Rainbow Dash could be seen lying down on her back with some sunglasses on. Pinkie Pie seemed to be focused on waiting for something to come out from underneath the picnic rag. I don't even know. She's hard to figure out in the show too. Rarity and Applejack just had their backs against the tree. All of this was covered with the classic logo which read My Little Pony. Most impressive yet was the audio. It was a classic remix of Pinkie Pie's Smile song from the show, which is one of my favorites of all time. It always seemed to cheer me up on my worst days. Hearing it through an SNES sound chip was just beautiful. I knew this game actually had some effort put into it. After I was getting over the beauty of the smile track, I pressed start to start the game. The first few screens explained the basic controls that I would have to use to get past certain obstacles. If anything, the gameplay was similar to what Thrine had to offer, in which you would have to use all of your characters to get past certain obstacles. For example, Rainbow Dash would be necessary to remove thunderclouds and fly over things, while Fluttershy could be used to tame and walk past any large living creatures that you would happen to run past. Of course, for the inanimate obstacles, along with several other threats, Twilight was always there to work her magic. Pinkie Pie was able to launch a party cannon attack, which somehow turned enemies and projectiles into some sort of cake batter. Applejack's main purpose was bucking all apples out trees for more food in the event your party's health got low. Apple trees were very rare in this game though, and would only provide a maximum of 3 apples when bucked. Rarity was simply used for the majority of stealthy proportions in the game, in which you would have to get past a guard or avoid being detected as you had to use one of several of her outfits to blend in with your surroundings. Now that I got that lengthy description of the way the game is played out of the way, it is time to describe what is truly frightening about this experience. After playing through a majority of the levels for an hour, I came across a level simply titled Stage 16, Stop. I thought that was odd. The way Stop was written was also unnerving, as it almost seemed small drips of blood were dripping from each of the red letters as the level faded into view. I was horrified by what I saw. Dead, lifeless trees that seemed more like Nintendo 64 graphics, which were appearing on the screen. The sky had also blackened with a slight hint of red. The ground I had been walking on was gray instead of lively colors I had been seeing before. The character who was on the screen was Fluttershy, who seemed more worried than usual. The freakiest part of all was the playing of the Smile song in reverse. This version was even the 16-bit version from the title screen. It sounded like an actual instrumental of the song, just played in reverse. I was beyond words at this point. Whoever made this game was a sick, twisted individual. Confused why there was a sudden change of atmosphere, I decided to move forward, only to see a giant bony black hand come out of the ground and grab Fluttershy. She was crushed within that same instant, blood running out into every direction. The game had never been this graphic with a character death before. In fact, there was never any blood in the event that a character had temporarily fainted. Deciding to try a different approach to overcoming the obstacle at the hand, I thought I could use Rainbow Dash to fly well above and over it. However, to my horror, the hand reached up all the way to the blackened sky and still crushed poor Dash, with the same grip that had gotten the best of me before. Maybe Pinkie Pie would help me accomplish something with an insane stroke of luck. Nope. She was crushed into a giant pool of blood as well. I tried switching to Twilight to see if I could use her magic to get across, but the game was bugged and would not let me at this point. I thought maybe I could use Rarity to get across with a camouflage disguise of sorts. No such luck. That camouflage was soon bloodstained. I tried switching to Twilight again, but she still wasn't selectable. Applejack was my last hope. Of course, she was crushed as easily as someone would bite into a single apple. I had given up all hope of beating this game when the game suddenly put Twilight into control. In fact, I was no longer pressing any buttons. Twilight was just casually strolling past the spot where the other 5 members of my party were brutally crushed as they were toothpicks. As she reached the edge of the screen, a dialogue box appeared. Princess Celestia was right. Friends do come in handy when you need them. After I pressed A to remove the dialogue, the reverse smile theme stopped. It was dead silent for about 10 more seconds, then another dialogue box appeared. Their potential was exceedingly great. It felt so good to possess it for myself. I can feel as if I can accomplish anything now. What kind of sick madness was this? This was not the Twilight I knew from the show. She would never harm her friends just for her own personal gain, would she? Then Twilight turned directly towards me. I could see a red pixelated glowing of her eyes as she just stared at me intently. I'm only merely doing what you've been doing this whole entire time. I'm using my friends as a means of escaping my current life. You've grown bored of your own life in the same way I have mine. It's time to move on. Using them, how is anything she's done even remotely comparable to my feelings? As if, in response to my question, she answered, "Your own life is empty, as was mine. You turn somewhere else to keep yourself entertained. You need a purpose. I found mine, but it seems as if you still need to find yours." At this point, a very disturbing image of Twilight with an unsettling smell, just like the one seen in the one episode titled Lesson 0. That smell sent shivers down my spine when I saw it in the show. But this far tops what that detailed. Everything about this seemed as if a real-life photograph had been snapped with a high-quality camera. Her eyes were completely missing. Beyond each of the sockets was just a black void. The mouth was also toothless. There was no tongue or any other features within it either. It was just a black void as the eyes were. At this point, text just splattered across the screen, almost as if each letter or stroke was carved with a bloody knife. The text read, "I'm sharing the magic." At this point, a loud, ear-piercing scream suddenly came out of my speakers. I covered my eyes in a vain attempt to block out the sound, but it was still coming through. I fumbled with the power button on the SNES for a few seconds, and the sound finally stopped, as the game was shut off. I ejected the game cartridge and left it sitting on my kitchen table. I knew I had to share this experience with everyone, and I needed all the proof I could get to show everyone my case was real. However, I felt really tired despite the time only being about 1 in the afternoon. So I figured a quick nap wouldn't hurt me much. However, during this quick nap, I happened to have a strange dream. I felt like I was walking down a street in my original hometown of Ballowville, Connecticut. I was just casually walking down the street when I stopped in front of someone's trash bin. I madly ravaged through the person's trash receptacle for whatever strange reason, littering all kinds of trash here and there. I also happened to take something out of a bag that I had somehow been carrying. That something was the cursed cartridge I had managed to come across earlier. So far, the front label looked normal, but then it mutated into a shape of the frightening image of Twilight I had described earlier. Scared to even look at it for more than a few seconds, I dropped the cartridge and ran away from that residence as fast as I could. When I woke up from this dream, I was relieved that I was still in my home. However, the oddest part of it was looking at my kitchen table and noticing that the game was missing. I could have sworn I put the game on that table. I was madly searching around my home for the game. I got frustrated and knew it was futile to try searching for the game when I was getting more and more stressed out with every minute. So I decided to take a break and check my email. My mother had sent me an email detailing a strange incident that happened to her home that morning. Someone had gone and messed with her trash just like what had been done to me earlier. She made no mention of the game though. However, I knew she probably thought the game was just more garbage, as she wasn't very interested in gaming to begin with. I didn't bother asking her about it, as that seemed like a weird question coming straight out of left field at the time. Plus, there was the slight fact that what I dreamt was actually what I had done. I don't know where the game is at right now. Maybe it finally got hauled off to a dump where it belongs. Maybe my mother got a crazy idea to actually play it, and now she had to suffer the same torment that I did, while involuntarily passing it on to someone else. Wherever it is, be careful when you're playing it. If that Twilight has enough power to control people's actions in the real world, then who knows what she'll be capable of doing soon.
Why I Stopped Watching My Little Pony, written by Optium 4T Mass, with 3 S's. Sorry if I pronounced the name wrong again. Dear Hasbro, my name is Alicia Garcia, a single mother of a 10-year-old daughter named Jennifer Garcia, who is a huge fan of your show. Non-stop, all she ever does is talk about the My Little Pony show and how it is the greatest thing on earth. I have watched a few episodes with her, and I have to admit, I have gotten hooked on it as well. Or, at least I used to. I don't see the show the same way nowadays. Ever since she has started watching it, she has asked for a Rainbow Dash doll. Her favorite pony, by the way. I have tried to find one to buy for her at the store, but so far, I haven't found one, or, for that matter, any My Little Pony dolls or figures. I once asked one of the clerks when, if ever, you will have some, but she had no idea of what I was talking about, as she never heard of it. I also looked online on eBay and Etsy, but still haven't seen any toys from your show. A few weeks ago, my daughter Jennifer bought home a Twilight Sparkle vinyl figure. She said she had found in up the playground under the swing set. It was dirty with one of its wings ripped off. Someone had colored its eyes black with a pen or marker, and it had the strangest smile I had ever seen on a doll. It's silly, and I don't know why I'm telling you this, but sometimes I feel like the doll hates me. Jennifer loves it and takes it everywhere with her. I can't imagine why she loves it so much. It's a broken toy, but it's her favorite. I tried cleaning it up, but I have been unable to remove the black ink. She took it with her for a sleepover with her friend Amelia at her house a few weeks ago. I'm not sure what happened, but my sister can't come over there anymore. I don't know everything that went on that night, and from what little I know, it has something to do with Jennifer loaning her Twilight Sparkle doll to her friend Alicia when she went to bed and something happened with her and the toy during the night. It's silly, I know, but the thing is, Jennifer has told me she hasn't been to school since the sleepover. Something about all she does is scream nowadays, and had to be placed in a hospital. I don't understand what all happened, and I'm a little frightened of it. I've caught my daughter on multiple occasions talking to it, and I'm a little creeped out. Sometimes it seems like the doll is listening and talking to her back. I know, it's stupid for me to tell you this, but I can't shake the feeling. But that's not really what I wanted to write to you about. The reason I'm writing to you is because I don't like how your new episodes are going. They're neither good or wholesome. We started watching, and to tell you the truth, they're more than a little sick. I don't know how you can call it a children's show, and if I figure out the schedule to it, I will make sure my daughter never watches it again. When we started watching My Little Pony, it was on Saturday mornings. Now it seems to be on all the time. When I bring her home from school or when she wakes up in the morning, and all through the day I will find it on. I'm not sure how they do it, but for almost a year now, My Little Pony is on at all hours of the day and night. It has gone so bad that I started to unhook the cable from the TV, and now we watch only DVDs and shows on Netflix. What's really upsetting is how the new episodes are going. Hasbro, I don't know what's wrong with you or the company that makes these shows, but they're downright evil. Only a twisted person would make something like this and like it. I thought it was strange that it was on all the time, but I didn't mind it. That all changed with the season 3 episode 14, Flutter Pet. The only one where Fluttershy's pet angel gets sick and has to be put down. That was a horrible episode, which I didn't like how all the other ponies laughed at Fluttershy and called her names for letting Angel get sick. This kept on till Fluttershy had a breakdown and started crying while the other ponies gleefully ripped the poor bunny Angel apart. I was so shocked when I watched it with her. Even more shocking was my daughter's reaction, just laughing and carrying on as if it was just another episode. This is the type of show you put on the air? The next episode was the season 3 episode 15, Pinky Party Pinky. I remember the name of it, and that was even worse than the other one. How Pinkie Pie threw a party for all of her friends, and they all hated it, telling her she is a failure, and her parties are terrible, and no one likes her, and wishes she was dead. The other ponies tormented Pinkie until she literally flipped out. She started biting herself, pulling out her hair while she was laughing and crying at the same time. My God, it was awful. It was so bad I turned it off, and I told my daughter she wasn't allowed to watch it again. It was disturbing how it didn't bother my daughter at all. I talked to her about it later on, and she told me that Twilight Sparkle doll said Pinkie Pie deserved it. Her parties are stupid and no one likes her, and they all wish she was dead. I was so stunned I took the doll away from her after that and wanted nothing to do with your show. I thought the matter was closed. I threw the doll away and thought it was the end of it, but it wasn't. The next day after dinner, a new episode came on as me and Jennifer watched a cartoon on Nickelodeon. Presumably SpongeBob. Side note, I never seen the My Little Pony show on it before, and just as horrible as the others, called First Flight Twilight. It was an episode where Twilight Sparkle is trying to learn how to fly with her wings, when she couldn't get it right. After her third try, the others get so mad at her they ripped off one of her wings, just like my daughter's doll had now that I think of it, and threw her off a cliff. You can clearly see her hit the ground. There was blood everywhere, along with the sickening sound of Twilight breaking her neck. Every episode from there on out was Twilight missing one of her wings and her head hanging at a weird angle. I don't get you people. Are your creators mentally sick? Like I said before, as much as I try to stop my daughter from watching the show, it still comes on all the time, and only episodes are just as mean. Applejack, when they set fire to Applejack's house and call names as her and her family are trapped inside and burned to death. Colors of the Rainbow, how they trapped Rainbow Dash in a well and filled it up with water until she drowned, all the while laughing at her screams. How can you call yourself a kid-friendly company when you have trash like this on? There are more episodes like this, but I really don't want to get into it. I have forbidden my daughter, who didn't seem to have minded it at all, from watching her My Little Pony show anymore. She somehow got the doll back. Don't ask me how, and told me I shouldn't have done it. I made Twilight angry. What that means is beyond me, but she's is my problem. As you know, this is my second letter to you about your show. I have attached your response to my first letter. Dear Miss Garcia, we thank you for your time to write to us about this, but Hasbro has never nor will, at this point in time, have any plans for the creation of a My Little Pony show. From what you have described in some of the episodes, I am not sure if this is some sort of joke from you or another person. Hasbro is committed to children entertainment and merchandise, and we would never create horrific shows that would torment our viewers. If you can give us more information about this, we will look into it. Sincerely, Hasbro Legal. This is your show. I see your logo on every episode. Pictures taken of my screen with the show and your name on it have been attached to my letter to you. Wait, I can hear the show coming on in the back.